Hi, I'm Sherry McGill, and you're watching Lessons Learned. Welcome back to Vintage Mystery Block Quilt Sew Along. We are going to pick a block today for block number 2, and I thought it might be interesting for you to see what I go through, if you will, to come up with these blocks. So I'm just gonna sketch out what I'm gonna do, and eventually it turns into a video and a PDF for you. So I'm using my Encyclopedia of Pieced Quilt Patterns, 3rd edition, compiled by Barbara Brackman, kind of like the Bible of quilting. And I have I've flipped through and chosen a vintage block, and it's under the category of equal 9 patch, like Shoo Fly. And I'm going to do this one right here, this one that's showing up in blue. I don't know if you can see that really well. These are very small, but I'll talk through all of this so you can understand what I'm looking at. But we're going to do it in 3 colors. It just shows it in blue and white here. And then we have an uncolored in one here that shows you exactly how that might be constructed. Now, this encyclopedia doesn't have any sort of cutting or measuring measurements in it or anything like that. It's just strictly an encyclopedia of blocks through the ages, and has a little extra information here on the side as to the different names that it's taken on through the years, and there's some dates and also some source material there that they used, that they noted that they used to find out what it was called. And interestingly, some of them don't even have names, but they have found blocks that people have designed and put into quilts and maybe never were repeated that much, so they didn't really get named. But this is in the Shoo Fly category, and this one has a bunch of names. It has Churn Dash, Hens and Chickens, Shoo Fly, Monkey Wrench, Indian Hammer, Broken Plate, Fisherman's Reel. So one of the earliest dates it mentions here is 1928, and it's called Hens and Chickens. But I definitely would have called that a Shoo Fly or maybe Broken Dishes. So anyway, that's what we're going to put into our quilt today. And so I'm just going to call it a Shoo Fly. Block 2. I'm using just a little graph paper here, and since all of our blocks are gonna end up being 12.5, and then once they're sewed in the quilt it'll be 12, I'm just going to measure off here, sketch in 12 of these little blocks here up and down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then it looks like it's would be constructed into 9 blocks. So I'm gonna mark off 4 and 4 horizontally and also vertically. And then it looks like our corners will be half square triangles. And then we have strip sets. Oops, that's not the right direction. Strip sets going all the way around. It's probably what I'll do too, is a strip set. And then a blank center. So our background will be here, here, all of these outer corners. Oops, I didn't do that one right either, did I? That's a background, 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 background. So for our background, we need since this is going to be, should be 12.5 from here to here, each of these columns and rows are going to have to be 4.5. So I'm just going to go ahead and mark those that way so that I can be reminded constantly what size I'm dealing with, because it's very easy to get off by a fraction of an inch somehow, and then your block doesn't go together right. So there we go, it's all over the place. I can't forget. So for background material, I need a 4.5 inch block here, 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 and here, and here. So to make half square triangles, I'm going to have to add about a 1/2 inch. That's what I like to do. So we're going to need 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's start with this easy one. The middle one's going to be 4.5, and we only have one of those. So let's just go ahead and put one 4.5 inch square. And then we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 5-inch squares. I wonder if I should make that 5.5. Is that what I usually do? Because I'm going to have to, once I make those, I'm going to have to cut them down to 4.5. Let's make them 5 and make sure that we don't sew crooked. So then now I've got these little strips. So this needs to wind up being 4.5 once it's sewed together here. So each one of these would have to be 2, let's see here. Well, we're going to make strip sets. So let's just make that a long strip of 4.5 times 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's going to be 18 inches, and it needs to be 2 1/4. Is that right? Let's make one big strip that's 2 1/4. So that would make it 2.5 once I sew this together. 4.5. 4. I might have to make that 4 and 2.5. 2.5 and 2.5. 2.5 and 2.5 is 5, and I'm going to lose a 1/2 inch here, so that's 4.5. And then once I sew it in here, that's going to leave my 1/4 on each side. So I think I need that to be 2.5. I'll find out here in a second. And then we're going to make it 1, 2, 3, 4 times 4.5 is 18. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 16, 17, 18 inches strip. And then out of our print, we're gonna do our print in just for our half square triangles. So we need 4 5-inch squares. And then for our solid, which in my case I'm using these. So this is my background, my print, and my solid. So my solid needs to be of the strip set only. So it goes here, here, and here. So that's going to be one of those 2.5 by 18 strips. Okay, so let's just go ahead and fill this in like a print on these so that we can not forget what we're putting where. So I'm just doing little circular things to represent a print. And then our dark blue solid, I'm going to do this way. marker so I can remember what I'm doing here. Okay, so there's our crude drawing of what we're going to do. So the first thing probably I'll do is make those half square triangles. So I'll take my 5-inch squares and sew on either side of either a drawn line, both sides of that, or I will use my seam tape most likely. If you don't have seam tape down on your machine bed, then draw a line from corner to corner on one of those when you sew, and then sew on each side of it. The strip set will be the two 18-inch strips sewn together, and then you'll go back and you'll cut your 4.5-inch pieces. And then I'm just doubting myself a little bit on the width of these. So if I have 2.5 by 2.5, this is 2.5 and this is 2.5, that's 5. And I sew them together, it's going to be 4.5. So then when I put it to this, that's going to make it 4.25. I'm just kind of doubting myself on that. So let me think about that again just to make sure, and then I'll come back to you. Yeah, that's right. If I put this together as 2.5 and 2.5, then it'll wind up being 4.5. And then I want that 4.5 to meet up with this 4.5, because that's our finished size of our half square triangle, right? And then we put it all together, we'll have 12.5, because we've got 12, 13.5 here, unsewn, completely unsewn. So once we put it all together, it'll be an inch less, because we have 1/2 inch here and 1/2 inch here that we're going to lose from these. That may or may not have made any sense to you, but I'm going to go ahead and cut my fabric out and take it over to the sewing machine. Now, to get my PDFs, I use a graph paper on an app, and I just color those in with the tool that's there to color those in. So when you print off your PDF, you're going to have a nice colored in diagram, and then the instructions will be typed up on that PDF, and you can print it off. So you can buy expensive software to do this stuff, and maybe someday I will, but just the average person doesn't need to have that necessarily. It'd be quite the luxury to have, and to take classes to learn it and to stay up to date on it and things like that. I may do that sometime having this channel, but the majority of you need to do something like this. So I hope that helped you to figure out how you can do this for yourself. Write your own patterns. I'm not a pattern writer per se. I don't have any professional experience in that whatsoever, but I mean, it's pretty much simple math, and sometimes you have to just sit and think about it like I just did with these strip sets. But let me get ironing out my fabric and cutting out my pieces, and I'll meet you back over at the sewing machine. Okay, here we are at our sewing machine. I had one adjustment, is that I didn't need 4 of these. I only need 2 and 2 to make the half square triangles, because each one makes 2. So I often make that mistake when I'm making these up, is that I had down 4 5-inch squares and 4 print and 4 background, and I only need 2, because when I put them together, they're going to make 4. So also on my strips, I did 2 strips of 9, because I didn't have an 18-inch long piece in my blue. So I made 2 9s, and then I just went ahead and made 2 9s of my background. And then there's my center square that I have here. So let's see how this goes together. I hope everything works out well. And if it doesn't, I'll just have to make adjustments and until I get it right, until I feel like that I can give you a copy of it. And then these here are for my 9 patch. You know how we have a second block each week, a 9 patch. So I already have my, let's see, what are these? 4.5 inch pieces here. So let's sew these up and see what it looks like when we get done. Okay, so I have my half square triangles done, and I had the size of 5 inches was good, so I had just a little bit I could trim off of each one with my clearly perfect slotted trimmer at 4.5. So just put your seam line on that dotted line and trim. And I've already pressed them, and then I also did my 2 strip sets. And I'm thinking I don't need as much as I have here. We'll see. I need to cut these. Let me cut them now and see what that comes out to. I got this board here. I'll just use it. So these are going to be 4.5 because they need to go together with, this is for my 9 patch. They need to go together with this. So that's correct. So I need to make them 4.5 inches. So I should be able to just cut each one of these in half since they're 9 inches, right? Let's do it and see what happens. Let's see, 4.5. Yep, that's exactly 9 inches there. So I'm gonna cut at the 4 and no, that's yeah, at the 4.5 mark, because I don't have it all the way over to this edge. I have it on the number 1 mark, so it's on 10. So I need to do it at the 5.5. But just cut this right in half, and you'll have exactly what you need for your block. And you notice all I did was just do a seam between those 2 strips and opened it and ironed it. So there you go. So let's see how this is going to lay out on here. Perfect. So all I have to do now is join these pieces, and then once I have those joined together, I will join the rows, this one to this one, this one to that one, and then I'll make my 9 patch, and I'll show you when I get done how it looks. Okay, so here are our 2 blocks for block number 2, or week number 2 on the vintage mystery block sew along. So you can find the PDF in the description box that you can print out, and I look forward to you back here next Wednesday for week 3 and another couple of blocks to put together, and before you know it, we'll be well on our way to getting this quilt done. All right, hope you have success with this, and I'll see you on the next one.